What's up, guys? I'm going to post my Russian deck video either before or after this at some point, so look out for that if you want to see my Russian deck video, and I'm going to start it the same way. I put up a picture of my favorite Russian and my favorite US deck, and a couple of people were saying, like, this is trash, what are you doing, stuff like that. So, obviously, there's a lot of people that don't understand the metas, they don't understand my experience, they don't understand a lot of things about this game, and they think that I've only been playing this for 10 days or whatever. So, I've been testing this game for multiple years now. I've been in multiple tests. I have multiple hundreds of hours and hundreds of games over the past couple of years with these units, with this game. This is all stemming from that. It does not mean that if you have multiple players who want your stuff dead on the other team, they're not going to be successful with that. It doesn't mean that if you go and play solo and you just do what I say or use these units, you'll do amazing. All I'm saying is, if you know how to play the game, if you know how to use these units, this is a very solid variety and a very good deck. The vast majority of my games, I play solo. And I'm assuming a lot of you guys will play solo. If you don't want to play solo, join the Discord. You can join the Broken Arrow Discord. You can join my Discord. A lot of people are playing this already, and they're going to be playing it when it actually releases because there's a lot of RTS fans in my Discord too. So, this is my favorite US deck. I have the most effectiveness, I have the most fun with this deck, and I win a lot, even solo, with it. So, we're going to go through the units on this. The Cav Scouts, these are really the only two units that I use, period. Cav Scouts with the Javelins, they're sneaky, they're the Recon teams, you can turn their guns off, and they can hide pretty well, not as good as Sniper teams, but they have the Javelins, which I think when paired up, potentially might be the best ATGM in the game because they are top attack, they're fire and forget, and they hit just super hard. Sure, they don't have the range, so it's up for debate, but when you have javelins shooting at you, it doesn't matter what vehicle you were in, Russian or American, it is scary, and chances are you are going to lose that unit. If not, very least, you're going to back up. You're going to back up, possibly resupply, possibly lose that unit. The Recon Bradleys that they come in, they're not the top when it comes to Recon, when it comes to view distance, sure, but they are still useful, and they come with toe-twos, and they come with Iron Fists, so they're quite useful for fire support, general support, and reconnaissance as well. So when I really want to see out at distance, I have the B-Fists here. They have the Bushmaster if I think I'm going to run into some trouble. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the toes, which is why I bring the CFVs. And then just because there's extra points available and I can't bring more of these, I bring these Fist Vs. Could I bring snipers? Sure. Do I? For some reason, I don't. They're good at hiding, but so are the Cav Scouts. If there's some place that I was going to put a sniper team to hide, I would put the Cav Scout. Most of the time, I don't let people get by there, and I don't let people find them anyway. So if you're worried about units being stealthy, whatever, the way I do Recon is I push through stuff, basically. Infantry, Mech Engineers, the ESVs, these bunker-busting blams, the TOW BBs over here, are amazing against infantry, especially when they're entrenched, especially when they're in buildings. I know there's not trenches, but we're in there in tree lines in the open. This is a very solid, very good light vehicle and anti-infantry missile here. So I use these with my pushes quite effectively. Also, it's a Bradley that has Iron Fists, so it's nice. I don't even really bring also when it comes to these vehicles here, I don't even bring the infantry squads with them. I just use the transport tab. The Stingers, sure, they're Stingers, fine, but it's 65 points, so I'd rather put them into a vehicle because I think vehicles are more effective. It's already a video I've talked about that stuff. These 2A4s, I barely ever use them. It's points that I'd rather use in a different kind of Bradley, whether they be the CFVs for the Recon or the ESVs for the anti-infantry, and then the rest I just put into tanks. Sometimes in games, it's nice to have these Syrahs because they're pretty good against vehicles because they're top attack. But then they get melted because there's only 4 of them, and they're a very small squad, so I barely ever use them. Vehicle tab. These are your decks. This is your deck right here. And the planes. We'll get to that in a second. Seb V3s are your push. V2s are your secondary push. They just wipe lines. The only thing that this loses to, I know you're going to be thinking of ATGMs, I know you're going to be thinking of infantry, I know you're going to be thinking of planes, but the only thing that this really loses to is other Abrams. I just had it happen a couple of games ago where apparently 3 of the players on the other team just weren't spending their points. I rolled up onto the last point with 6 Abrams, the 4 V2s, and the 2 V3s, and they just had like a dozen. They just had and they were like the regular SEPs. I think they had a V2 and there are a couple of V3, but they were just a line, just a rolling doom stack of Abrams. Of course, I'm going to lose that. I even was running, and they were doing a good job of going forward. They knew that they would win, but I took a lot of them with me, but still wasn't enough. It's just more guns, more armor, more pen. It's not going to be able to cut it. And I had complete idiots, complete and utter, just like deer in the headlight idiot teammates that thought that they had to go do something else on the other side of the map when literally all they needed to do was try and help with a couple of planes. But when you're spending this many points, what you can't do is you can't buy planes, you can't buy helicopters. You're stuck with what you got on the ground when you spend that many points. So you're pretty limited with options other than just kind of backing up and running away or just losing what you have right there. And the vast, I mean, that's literally out of hundreds of games that happens once. Every other game, as long as you're intelligent, as long as you're paying attention to where you're putting these, they're going to roll lines. And that doesn't matter whether it's the United States or Russia. It doesn't matter how many T-15s they're using. The more Abrams that you bring, the worse it is, the worse off it is for them. Most games, I bring just a couple of V3s, a couple of V2s. I don't even use the entirety of the V2s, and they roll lines. I don't think I have ever bought a FEP. I don't think I've ever bought an LAV. Correction, for this test. I don't think I've bought a FEP. I've tested them. I've tried out decks where it's like no APS so that it's as cheap as possible. Just line up Abrams. It's take it or leave it. It's like kind of a toss-up. Just bring the V3s. Just bring the V2s. You can leave the era at home if you want and just bring the trophies, and then maybe you can buy another half of a FEP if you want, or maybe a full FEP. What is it? Let's see what happens. No, you can't even buy one FEP. So just what's the point? Just bring the era, just in case. Just bring the era. It's not worth it. The points just isn't there. So just bring the era. I want to make sure I saved that correctly because I'm not going to pay attention to it later. All right, we're good there. Right, yeah, we're good there. Right, yeah, we're good. Support tab. These are great against helicopters, and the Hellfires are pretty nasty against vehicles as well, and you get 6 of them. They're great. I rarely use more than 3. Just with the way that the points roll out, I rarely use more than 3. I rarely use more than 2. But they are fantastic. I use them every single game. Lav ads, same kind of similar situation. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. They're not fantastic against planes, but they really are better than the shore ads. So if you think you're going to be worrying about planes, have this out there so that they can toss a couple of stingers at them, at least make them use flares so that if you do have a plane coming after them, they'll have less flares to deal with, and maybe if you have the packs in the back, you have less flares to deal with. Most players, when it comes to, speaking of the packs, most players when it comes to the AA, they just artillery it. So the second that you shoot one of these packs, depending on the players that are on the other team, depending on how they want to do this, they just go after it, and there's not a whole lot that you can do. If you don't have the radar on, then it's not going to be able to intercept those ATACMs. It's not going to be able to intercept those PRSMs, and it's not going to be the most effective against aircraft that's coming after you. So it's a bit of a hit or miss. They're pretty slow. There's been plenty of games where I've realized that, okay, so this other team is obviously trying to go after my AA. I can move it around a little bit. I can pay attention to, they've been awful quiet. They're probably saving for a plane. Maybe I move this after it shoots or something like that. There's a lot of the cat and mouse that goes on. Most games, I don't even fucking deal with it. I just bring planes if I worry about planes, or I just keep moving, or I pop smoke and all that stuff. It's just part of the game. The cat and mouse, most of the time when it comes to the effectiveness of AA and stuff like that, I just don't even bother with it because it's 200 points. It's going to end up being 400, 500 points when you tie in supplies and stuff like that. No, I'll just bring up an Abrams. Most of the time it's better that you leave this for a support player. If people want to actually focus on making sure that their AA stay alive, you can. When you do bring out the pack 2s, just make sure your shore ads are always turned on, so at least if they bring seed out, which is the easiest way to get rid of the packs, they go after the shore ads and not your pack 2s, and then you bring up another shore ad, because chances are that the shore ad will eat 2 missiles, whether it kills it or not. It is going to have 2 missiles shot at it, and which is the most that most planes can bring. So pretty much all you need to worry about there. And then we got our support. Sometimes I bring the paladin, sometimes I don't. It's 450 points that sometimes it makes a difference. Sometimes they just kind of sit there. I take it or leave it. I don't really use artillery too much. I just kind of keep my units moving around, and I just make sure that they're resupplied. The 3 Super Cobras, I use these all the time at the beginning of the games because they love to shoot down planes when you stack up 3 of them at the beginning with their 6 Sidewinders that they like to shoot very quickly. They love to shoot down planes, and then also a bit of extra fire support. Obviously, you can use the Sidewinders against helicopters as well. Bit of extra fire support with the Hydras and the cannons, of course. But those are 2 Sidewinders that you can get up to the front line quite quickly for 125 points, and you can bring 3 of them. So that's why I do it. Ospreys are insanely fast. I think they're my favorite helicopter in the game because of how fast they are. They land super fucking slow, but just make sure that you've planned for that and that you're okay with that. Venoms, very, very cheap. And they're pretty good view distance, and they can carry some cargo, so they're all good. Vipers, I've lost my faith in the Vipers quite a bit recently because I realized that the Hellfires are not fire and forget. So it's a bit annoying, but the off times that there is a breakthrough from one of your teammates or for you or for whatever, and you need some ATGMs quickly, it can do it because most of the time players forget AA when they do that. When they do the really hard pushes that you would require help as soon as possible that a Viper would be able to do. The F-35s, I'm messing around with the JDAMs. I think the JDAMs are pretty damn effective. They're just more expensive than the Stormbreakers and the JSOWs, of course. But it doesn't really matter. Well, of course, it doesn't really matter because the point difference is where you can't bring some things and you can bring some things with the Hornets. You're left with plenty of points, a couple hundred, depending on what you're bringing. I think in the case of Stormbreaker to JDAM, it's a bit iffy. It's a bit iffy because I think you use them the same way, but you just get an extra 2 rounds with the Stormbreaker. So, or an extra round, I meant. So, what I mean is, most of the vehicles that you're going to kill, that you really want to kill, you're going to need 2 Stormbreakers to do it. Vehicles like the heavy tanks and stuff, sure, you want to hit them with like all of your Stormbreakers. The distance is a little bit better. They're more maneuverable for the way that I use them. I'm gonna have a video coming up at some point here talking about like the planes that can laze their own targets and the munitions that they use and stuff like that. It's gonna be hard to explain without you guys seeing that video. The way that I use these, it's up in the air. I really haven't decided what I would rather take, whether it be JDAM or Stormbreaker. The JSOW is also great. I really am lost. I don't know what is better at this time because if you get a vehicle push, the JSOWs are great at like panicking them, at sometimes destroying them, blowing up supplies, all that stuff. It's good. JDAMs are going to do that. Stormbreakers are going to do that, but you get more of them, and it's better against infantry. It's better against clumped up. And you can make the Stormbreakers and the JDAMs hit helicopters when they are, of course, not moving, but even moving just a little bit slowly. And then I think the JDAM hits a bit harder. But the Stormbreakers, I think, are like more maneuverable when you are lasing the targets. So in terms of variety, in terms of being able to handle all threats, I think a JSOW with either the JDAM or the Stormbreakers are the play. But sometimes the double JDAM just does it. The double JDAM just does it. You drop 2 laser-guided 1,000-pound bombs on an Armada, and it's dead. On a T-15, it's dead. You can't say that for a JSOW. You can't say that for a Stormbreaker. But then sometimes these are more maneuverable, and sometimes they're a clump of units where the 2, sure, you kill one Armada, but you don't kill the tanks around it, or you don't stun the tanks around it, or you don't worry the tanks around it. So I'm really just lost. Like, I'm up in the air on what I want to bring with these. And all I know is that American Airborne is going to be just scary. Absolutely terrifying when it comes to being able to bring more of these and different variants and stuff like that. It's going to be scary. It's going to be overpowered. It's going to be a problem. If we only can bring 2 F-35s and we're already dealing with like this powerful of units, yeah, it'll be a problem. And then we got our Hornet, the 4 Sidewinders and the 4 AMRAAMs. 4 AMRAAMs, as long as you hit, that's a couple planes dead. The 4 Sidewinders, as long as you hit, that's a couple of helicopters dead. So it's pretty effective against both. Nice Little quick reaction if you're having to deal with planes or helicopters. That's pretty much it. That's the setup. That's what I use for my American deck. Good luck with it. Again, I'm not saying I'm the best player in the world. I'm just trying to say I've used all of these units from both the American and the Russian deck. Also, if you're interested in the Russian deck, that'll be posted either before or after this one. So stay tuned for that one. I'm just saying I've played hundreds of games. I've played hundreds of hours. I've gone through all the decks. I've gone through all the units. I've used them all over the different maps and stuff like that. Just take it or leave it. If you want to believe the experience, you can. If you want to know how to use these, come by a stream. Watch my other videos. Don't bring infantry, bring vehicles. Otherwise, best of luck. I hope you have a nice day. See you guys.